Huh?
Yeah.
And most of you guys know Danny V, the Danny Vega,
What up?
right? For some of you guys who don't, Danny's done a lot with me, right? He's done vocals on my music. We've
Yep.
fucking chilled. You got your
Yep.
own YouTube
Fucking
channel,
school.
school, fuck,
Yeah.
who knows, man? All kinds. We've been around the block.
Yep.
But yeah, we're trying something different, man. It's been like over a week since I got you guys a video. So I figured I'd try to get you guys something different, try something out. Figured Danny'd be a good rat, good lab rat. So we're gonna we're gonna do this thing, man. So what's up, Danny, man? How you doing, bro?
Chilling, bro. Thanks for having me on. I got to represent, Austin 316 Day today. That's
it,
right.
bro. That's it.
Boom.
That's it, bro. Oh yeah, man. That's cool, man. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. First off, I don't really have anything to talk about. I didn't really prepare like any kind of topics or anything. So I figured if you had, because I know you were like texting me. You text me more than anybody, honestly, about the crazy shit that we post and talk about. So I mean,
Yeah, man.
where you at, man?
Just crazy shit, bro. Me and you chat about this a lot because I've talked conspiracies before with a good friend of mine. Actually, the guy that trained me when I was Spider-Man at Universal.
Mm.
He was like super into spirituality and all this jazz, and also conspiracies. And he's the one that got me started down that rabbit hole. Before me and you end up talking about it, a few years back.
Right.
And that's how I know about like Project Pegasus and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, man, it's a wild trip because you see how everything is almost like interconnected. And what's so funny is that a lot of conspiracies that you have said, a lot of conspiracies that a lot of people have said have come true, and people are dubbed conspiracy theorists first. Oh, that's a conspiracy. And then it comes out and you're like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
there it is. Yeah,
Yep.
where's my apology, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's crazy. And I remember because like, and I kind of forgot that you and I used to go deep back when we were like recording the old Wise of Sleeper shit back in the day. But yeah, man, because when we started the group, you're like one of the more active people on the group. So I was like, oh yeah, Danny, man. I always forget Danny's like down the hole, man. Because you don't, you do all your shit, but it's more like along, I wouldn't say mainstream line, but it's, you're not digging down the rabbit hole on your channel. So, I forget about that. But yeah, it's cool, man. And it's cool to see like not only like people that I didn't even realize in our circle of friends and on Facebook or whatever that are thinking about this kind of shit, but it's a lot, man. I get a lot of people, not just you. I get 2-3 people a week, man, that message me. Some of them I've never even spoken to, you know what I mean? And they're like,
Wow.
hey, bro, here's this block, you know what I mean, about how I think the earth is flat. And I'm like, great. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's cool, man. And you get flagged a lot, bro. You've been flagged on that group more than anybody,
Dude. And asking questions is not even saying like, hey, this is true, follow my conspiracy. I'm like,
Right.
hey, is this true? All of a sudden, Facebook ban.
Flag, zucked. Yeah, you've been zucked multiple
Super.
times, man. And it's like maybe once every 2 weeks, it's like Danny Vega posted something. Do you want to check it out first? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's check it out. Let's see what Danny did today, So
Dude, that one post of Bill Gates, the one that I posted, and again, it was a question. It was just like, what a coincidence that you post about the patent that was a Rothschild had, right? On the
on the COVID
COVID-19 thing.
test kit, Rothschild
Yeah.
owns the patent on the COVID test kit filed years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
That was the weird part. It
So
wasn't even so much. I mean, his name on it was weird, but the fact that it was filed years
five
prior,
years ago.
that's what had me like, wait a fucking second,
Yeah. And so again, what a coincidence. And that's all it was. That was me saying, what a coincidence that Bill Gates had that speech about the viruses and all that, just a TED Talk 5 years ago, at the same time that this patent was patented. And all of a sudden I get flagged, my post gets removed. And then not only that, when you guys as the moderators try to see what I posted, they're like, oh, we can't show you what he posted.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't?
People don't realize that. Like, I don't know how many people that watch this like moderate a group on Facebook, but when they tell me that you posted something that they think is questionable, right? It'll literally tell me, Danny posted this and it's been fact checked by so and so and it's
Mhm.
fake news, and it'll say see why. And I'll click on it and literally all it says is missing context. Missing context. That's it. It doesn't give me any kind of real description. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, I don't even remove them. I don't know if you know, I let them fly. I put them on
Yeah.
the group and they're still flagged as fake news or whatever. But yeah, man, we all know what it is, man. It's not even Zuckerberg. We know it's the algorithms that they can't,
Hmm.
differentiate between sarcasm and jokes and facts and,
Hmm.
like these little nuances, which is why people, I think, are calling it like the meme war. Have you heard that before?
No, no.
Yeah,
Is
it's like,
that have to do with like Pepe the Frog and all that jazz?
yeah, I mean, it's part of it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The meme war it's just like another culture war. You know what I mean? It's kind of the truther, if you want to say even the truthers. It's people's way of getting around the algorithms, or at least it was for a while. Before they
Mm.
started just flagging every fucking meme that has, a typo in it. So it's like,
Mm.
but yeah, the meme wars, man.
That's crazy. A guy that I watch, he goes by Vegetable Police. He's this guy that does all these weird diets trying to, heal himself. And he changed his thing to vegetables conspiracies because, he's getting into this, conspiracy thing. And the algorithm, so he changed his name back. But a lot of people that he was following, stuff like that, YouTube has already, like, apparently, like, took them off and all this jazz. And so he does an awesome thing. Like, he goes like this, and then you'll see flashing of what he wants to what he wants to say, so the algorithm doesn't catch what he wants to say.
Like
It's
subliminal
incredible, dude.
messaging, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's cool. That's funny. I've thought
Yeah.
about doing weird stuff, like being like the audio guy. I've thought about like
Mm-hmm.
recording a podcast and then having like like a subliminal message, record it on a frequency
Mm-hmm.
that you can't hear, but play it in the background of the audio to try to get a message across subconsciously. I've thought about doing weird stuff like that just to see if anybody pick up the Easter egg.
Yeah, and the thing about, like the subliminal messaging, especially because, I'm more on the spiritual side of things and how this all interconnects and stuff like that. And I've been, like, me and you've been talking about frequencies and healing frequencies, especially that CIA post that you posted up. I read everything you post, I read. Like, I legit, and if I don't have time, I'll come back to it and I read it, like, thoroughly.
Well, you're
And that's
rare.
why I respond to
That's rare, dude. But I
you.
appreciate it, dude. I mean, you know.
Yeah. And so that frequency post, man, that you posted, I was like, holy shit, the CIA is saying, they're dabbling with that, because a lot of people still don't know that, LSD was first created for mind control,
Mhm.
and that fucking backfired on them hard,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Well, I don't even know if it backfired. Are you meaning by like just because the hippies got a hold of LSD that it backfired?
No, well, apparently, so before, like, the hippies and stuff like that, so apparently what it did was, like, even though that you are very, how do you say it, very susceptible to what you're, you know what I mean, in that state, you're very susceptible to anything presented to you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stick, because you can still negate that. You know what I mean? It's not like you're drunk and stuff like that, that you're totally unaware. You're totally in
Mhm.
full awareness, depending on the doses, obviously, that you have. Um, but it's just a state of consciousness, bro. Like, when I've done, when I've dropped, or when I've on my mushroom trip, like I told you, accident, how I did a heroic dose.
Right, yeah.
you know you just get these messages, bro, that are just on a higher level. So I feel, and this is just me just speaking, I feel that, you know you wanted to use it as mind control, but what ended up happening is you open the gate to higher consciousness for the ordinary people
Mhm.
instead. And that's why they, made it illegal, and they were just like, nope, nope, nope. And then also, the implications of, like, doing too much too soon, or even mixing. That's why they tell you don't mix with other, drugs and
Right.
stuff like that, because it can mess with your
Trolling,
psyche.
right.
Yeah, or even on top of that, they say, like, schizophrenia or any other mental illness can be amplified, or shit like that.
Right, yeah.
So that's why they always tell you, like, I love Joe Rogan, I love other people that are very spiritual, that shamans and everybody uses out of respect. Everyone had this underlining fear out of respect for the substances and whatnot, for these higher level, these gates to the higher level, man. And so I think that's what happened. I think that they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna, we're gonna
Kind
put
of
shit
got
in
away
people's
from them a little
minds.
bit. Kind of like
Oh
the
yeah,
internet,
dude.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, we're gonna make them do this, and then all of a sudden,
Mm.
people reach higher levels of consciousness. It's like it's all love, and they're like, fuck, that's not what we wanted.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I feel that way, and I have felt that way for a long time. You know, that some things get away from these people, right? Like the internet, or maybe like LSD, like you're saying, or who knows what else. But then I don't know. Like lately, I'm kind of coming to a different conclusion, that there's not like a one they, right? Because people ask like, who is they? Like, give me some names, and I'm sure we could give them a whole list of names, right? Rothschilds,
Hmm.
Rockefellers, whatever. But I don't think that there is one they. I don't think there's like one. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like one agenda, right, being played
Mm,
out. I think that there are multiple, maybe 10, 20, 100 different, you know, high level, Illuminati agendas
hmm.
that don't necessarily have to do with each other. That's why another thing, people will say, oh, how would all these people get together and lie about this? They wouldn't be able to get together. They can't get together on anything, right? I think that's true. I think that maybe there are just these different factions, and they all take advantage of the same crisis, right? So a coronavirus, or any virus, right? There's a
Hmm.
pandemic that goes on, or there's a virus that happens. All of these different occult factions, right? They'll take advantage of it for their own purposes, kind of with a similar overall theme involved, control, power, fear, these kinds of things. You know what I mean? So it's hard to
Yeah.
pin like they are doing it, or maybe LSD got away from one faction, but maybe another faction released it to the public on purpose, with hopes of steering society in a certain direction, creating subcultures, like the hippies, and like people like Charles Manson, who ended up,
Mm,
doing crazy shit. So
yeah. That's very interesting that you say that too. That's a great perspective, and especially because, you know, it's funny since the dawn of time, like of man, there's always, the forces of stories, you know what I mean, of
mm,
good and evil, like maybe like you're saying, all of a sudden these people knew what it was, and it's just like, well, we're not going to let the evil take over or whatever per se, excuse my dialect, but
yeah,
that's the
that's yeah,
simplest
yeah,
way I can
yeah.
I can put it.
Most people relate to
But
that. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I can see that happening, like you said, like, oh shoot, they find out what's happening. They're in that, like, how do you say, category of being an undercover agent or whatever. It has a high sense of morality, and then leaked it out. Who knows?
mhm.
I know Timothy Leary had the greatest of intentions, but man, apparently he went off the deep end too.
Right.
That's
Mhm.
why they kicked him out of Harvard and whatnot.
Mhm.
You know, and then Terrence McKenna, which is amazing that you put me on to that guy. The one thing that I read and I was like, holy snap, is that his first and only time that he claimed to regret it was when he found out he had that tumor in his brain. And then what happened is he would have the psychedelic experience often without even taking anything. It would just
Right.
happen more and more. And then so he asked if there was a correlation, and the doctors say, well, no. And then he's just like, well, that can't be, because here this is happening. And then that was like the first ounce of like regret that he had after all the promotion and stuff like that. So yeah, man, who knows? That's a really good interesting theory, especially because let's go into the deep stuff that's out on the internet or whatever. But like, if there is Freemason, the Masons and everything else, you know think about it. Even in
Where's it
wait,
at? Right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Wait, if I
so
move my head, you get.
yeah, right there. So so even with the Freemasons or whatever, and then yeah, I know this is silly to say. Again, I try to use simple examples to bring it up, but like, look at the game Assassin's Creed. When they're established, you know what I mean, there's a group that always fights the opposite polar end.
Hmm.
So I do feel that way. Like, everything that you're saying, like, I feel there's always an opposite, because
It,
for
that's
me,
that's the key right there. So if you get into like
yeah.
hermeticism, or
Hmm.
anything like that, right? One of the things is polarity, right? Polarity
Hmm.
exists in all of the universe, right? Whether that's
Hmm.
good and evil, or a positive or a negative charge, or however you want to
Hmm.
look at it, there's always polarity. And
Hmm.
one of the things about like hermeticism, there's like a saying, right, where it's I believe it's millionaires watch the stock market, billionaires watch the stars, right? Meaning that you know, billionaires are more in tune with like astrology and like these occult beliefs, right? Which bring them to
Mm,
another level beyond millionaire. They're not just looking at the numbers, they're actually looking at other things, right?
mm,
They're a little more mystical, if you will, using
yeah,
magic, right?
yeah.
So, you know, I think I don't know. I don't remember what my first train of thought was, but
No, that's really good, man. Because, that's a segue into what I was getting into is that, you know, so for me on conspiracies, like I said, I'm more on the spirituality side of things. You know me, I'm not really sure, and that's why I question everything. So I'm not really sure if there's a deity or higher power. I definitely experience incredible things and horrific things on my trips,
mm,
but there's a lot in philosophy and a lot in historical messages, if you will. Like in Taoism, they say how, one can't be without the other. So same with Buddhism, that light and dark is one side of the
duality.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's not even duality they call it. They call it it's two sides to the same coin. So it's not really a
Oh, okay.
duality.
What is that? There's another term for that too. It's like the male and the female. It's
Correct.
the right, yeah. That's
There's the
also in
union.
Hermeticism, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my favorite philosophers, Alan Watts, said this, and I thought it was absolutely fucking incredible, dude. It blew my mind. He said that uh, because he studied a bunch of different philosophies like I do. I'm barely there at all compared to him. This is a dude that philosophized everything, and he said that in biblical terms, he was like, have you ever wondered why they always say the right hand of the Father is the righteous side? He's like, why don't they talk about the left side? He's like, because the left side of God is evil. He's like, he's the Alpha and the Omega. He's like, there's no separation of God. So he's just like, everything righteous is on the right hand of the Father. He's like, well, why don't they talk about their left side?
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah, that to me, I feel like that to me is a more important principle. I don't know. I don't like to be the one that bashes on any religion, right? I grew up in like a
Hmm.
Christian, you know, with a Christian background. I'm not religious now, but a lot of my
Yeah.
family is and stuff. I don't like to bash religion. However, I do believe that the
Hmm.
idea of duality or, you know, the idea of polarity is just as, if not more important than the idea that God is only good, right?
Yeah.
Like that has to be both, you know what I'm saying? And to separate it into two different beings like God and Satan, right? One being all good and one being all evil. I feel like that is a manipulate. That's the manipulation in the book. It's not necessarily that
Mm.
the energies or that the deities or whatever don't exist. The manipulation from the ancient, you know, popes and shit was to separate the duality from one being into two separate beings, right?
Correct.
To create division, right? Divide and conquer. That's what everything's always about, divide and conquer. So you could divide God from this dual entity into two separate entities that are one-sided without polarity, you know.
Yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. Obviously, I wish someone was here so we can, look it up and whatever. If I'm not mistaken, the Jewish Bible, how that came to be was because from the Aramaic, Bible or whatever,
Right.
the person that created the Jewish Bible was reading it and couldn't believe how ruthless God was. And so that's when the all-loving God came into the picture and they made, the Bible that the Jews had, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. That's interesting. I might have heard that
Yeah,
too. I don't know if it was the what is it, the Torah, right? That's what it's called, the Torah.
something like that. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
if it was the Torah, but it was one of the religious texts for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, that it's like you said, the whole duality thing. This is reason why, and I know this is so funny because everyone's just like, me and you about everything is like Lucifer, because we talked about the Vatican having Lucifer,
Right. Yeah.
the telescope and all this jazz. But what's crazy is though the one thing I like about the show Lucifer for real is because he's like, I'm not evil, I punish evil. You know what I mean? He's like, you guys are the one that paint me as this evil person. He's like, I don't do that. That's not my job. And
Right.
then he said it. He's like, hell was created before him. He was sent to take over hell. So where the hell did that come from, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, then you see like other, stuff from their story and fables, but it makes sense that. if there is a creation being, and there's like you said that there's duality throughout the entire thing, which is not really duality, it's union, you know what I mean, throughout the entire thing
Right.
of the universe, then there is no separation at all between me, you, everybody else, there's no true separation. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I kind of like the idea of forgiveness goes into that too, right? Like if you're
mhm,
forgiving somebody, yeah, on the surface, it's a good idea, right?
mhm,
Forgiveness, but it's
mhm,
also it can be a condescending act as well, right? Which is
mm,
where I think that like a lot of Satanists get this idea too, where that's why forgiveness isn't so much in uh, satanic churches as it is in the Christian churches. One of the tenets for Levian Satanism is, if somebody's bothering you or something, you ask them to stop, and if they don't, you destroy them, right? There is no forgiveness, right?
mm,
Because they see it as a weakness,
mm,
and I don't know. I can kind of get behind that in a sense. You know what I mean? You don't want to just forgive everything just because you feel like that's the righteous thing to do, because there's a lot of evil right out there that
mm.
needs to be handled, man. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta destroy it, dude. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I've had that view on that. Because in my head, in my ego, obviously, I always had the thought that even angels slay demons,
mm,
you know? But I really do believe that it has nothing to do with the outer world, like the outside of me and you. I have everything to believe that's within you. So the whole thing, like my spiritual teachers used to say, their outside world's a reflection of our inside worlds. There's if you go into the works of Carl Jung and stuff like that, there's, consciousness, the unconscious, the subconscious, the collective consciousness, and the collective unconsciousness.
mm,
So that's, Carl Jung's map of, the soul and consciousness. So in that case, everything within you is the outside world, everything is reflecting from what's within you. So the whole forgiveness thing, man, I think a lot of people have a sort of misconception of forgiveness, because everyone's just like, oh yeah, you can forgive somebody, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to be all loving and caring, you know what I mean? But it is loving and caring to separate yourself from that. So like, I'll give you an example without getting too personal or anything, but I know people, and I have done it in my experience, that are super toxic, that have, mistreated me. And I'm not talking about like, oh, they call me names, like for real,
parasites,
like done some
parasitic
shit.
entities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And what you do is that you forgive them because of their unawareness. It's that whole thing that I told you, forgive them, Father, for not, for they don't know what they do, is
Mm,
because unawareness, man, and I really do believe this is a key thing to these conspiracy things, is that you can easily manipulate people that have no self-awareness and no sense of the inner world, of the inner self. And because what happens is that anything that is unconscious, right? You can get away with, because it's unconscious. You really don't know.
right.
But the greatest thing about consciousness and self-awareness is that when you reach that level, you can never go back.
Mm,
You really can't.
that's true.
Think about it, man.
No,
You
that's true.
like so yeah, so the
I can see that kind of now just in my own life, because I have been trying to work a lot more towards just putting out more positivity, even though I get
mhm,
into like negative conspiracies and shit, just like in my day to day interactions with people, I try to
mhm,
just put out more positivity, right? People like, somebody I work with might say some shit that pisses me off. 2 years ago, me might have said something back. Now I'm more on the lines of like kill him with kindness, offer him a dab, you know, crack a joke, or in the back of my mind, I'm like, I just really want to feed you to an alligator right now. And I'm you know what I mean? And like it actually helps a
yeah,
lot. It not only does it help my daily interactions with people, where people just kind of now are putting that back to me, but
no,
when shitty things happen to me during the day, right? I'm at work, something bad happens, doesn't go the way it's supposed to. It literally doesn't even affect me hardly at all, just because I
yeah,
think I'm putting out that positive vibe, man.
yeah. That's great, man. That's great to hear. I think a lot of people get a misconception of that too. I hate, like, I really do, with a passion, because I don't believe in it per se, because I feel like there's things, there's some truth to it, but not the whole truth, if that makes sense.
Mm,
So the law of attraction bullshit.
mm.
So I do believe there's some truth to that, but my favorite quote on that whole thing was from Wayne Dyer, who's a great spiritual teacher. And before he passed, they asked him to be on The Secret. And he's like, I stood far away from that as much as possible.
As
And
smart.
yeah, yeah. And so, but you see these people on The Secret, you know what I mean, and they're telling you all this jazz, and they're speakers that make millions of dollars, do all these seminars. And even though Wayne Dyer does seminars, Wayne Dyer has never told anyone not to record at his place, at his seminars. And he's like, yeah, record it. He's like, put it up, I don't care, like this is
Mhm.
for everybody. And then not only that, he said this, he goes, you don't get just what you ask for. You get who you are. He's like,
Mhm.
you have to improve yourself and be at a level to get the things that you want. And then so, but not only that, he was saying, yes, belief, he has a book called You'll See It When You Believe It, right? But when it comes to belief, your brain has a pretty good bullshit indicator. Like
Right.
you're gonna like, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, and your brain is like, motherfucker, you live right here, peeing in the can.
Yeah.
It it really does, man. Like it has
Uh,
a good bullshit detector, and so yes, the visualization works. Obviously they show scientific evidence of that, et cetera, et cetera. But you literally have to truly become somebody else to
mhm.
attract
You got to put the work
those
in, man.
things.
You got to put the
Yeah,
work
man.
in, dude. That's what
Yeah.
people mean when they say that. When the people, what's the guy that you just posted
Wayne
a
Dyer.
video? No,
Which one?
you went and met the guy, man, the fucking
Gary
guru,
V.
Gary V, right? Like
He's not
that's
really a fucking guru either.
well, no, but like people like him, like these
Yeah.
motivational,
Hmm.
businessmen type, like that's their whole thing. You know what I mean? It's not,
Hmm.
it's partially, yeah, you got to put the mental aspect out there, but 90% of it is you got to put the fucking work in, whatever that
Absolutely.
is, whether it's like showing up at 4 o'clock in the morning or whether it's just being nicer to the asshole at work every day. You know what I mean? Like you put
Absolutely.
the work in and you'll start to see the rewards from it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. And it's just nature, man. And this is what I'm trying to get to on this conspiracy thing is that nature, like human beings, right? Regardless if we are, let's say, for instance, if we want to go with, the theory that we are, hybrids of an alien race, and monkeys, spliced genetic mutation, or whether we are the stoned ape theory, or whether we are created in God's image, which will make us demigods, you know what I mean? Whatever. The thing is, though, is that we're here a part of this realm,
Mm,
and we should honor and respect that. I feel like humans were trying to transcend it without even knowing what transcendent really is. Like
hmm.
you're not even here in the
Right.
now. So how the fuck are you going to
You don't
transcend something?
understand this realm. How are you going to go to the next? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and not to say
Thank
that
you.
I understand it because I don't fucking understand it at all. I
Exactly.
so don't understand it that I question every single thing that comes
Mhm.
across me. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I feel that, man. For sure. And I never really thought about that because there is like this subconscious part of us all that's like, oh, I want to transcend, right? I want to be more woke. I want to be whatever. And you're right, man. I think that we should probably be more focused on like this realm, right? That's what the whole like live in the moment, you know, take care of this,
Yeah.
man, you know and that's I don't know, that's why I get upset, to kind of bring it to a conspiracy level a little bit. That's why I get a little upset with the climate change shit, you know what I mean? And it's like, yes,
Mhm.
okay, we all live here, and if the climate decides to do something crazy and we're all fucked. I get it. I'm here too. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got these assholes that are doing the things that are causing real climate change, spraying hundreds and millions of tons of shit in the fucking skies, right? And then they're so good at manipulating the info that for 20 years they laugh at us, right? And then here we are now, and you can't, I'm still waiting for the debate, right? That is, it's not going to happen because people know it's true. But yeah, man, I don't know. I feel like the climate change people need to take a hard look at like the people telling us that we're fucking up the climate. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, you're fucking it
Yeah.
up. You're gonna have to pay the carbon tax. But I didn't set up the fossil fuel industry. You didn't set up the banking or the lobbying. You know what I mean? Like those are the people that
Absolutely.
should be taking care of it, you know?
The fact that, and again, this is goes, to tie it with, his name was Peyton. So Peyton told me about the weather machines.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up the video like all those years ago, and I was like, I get the fuck out of here, dude. I was like, it's real. Like, it is legit real, but people will still argue with you that there's no way that we could manipulate. It's like, dude, we are human beings that travel to other states and countries in a fucking metallic fucking little shell.
Soda can,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, in the air, bro. In the air. You go back in time before the Wright brothers, you know what I mean? Before Leonardo da Vinci's of the concept of the airplane. You go and tell people, "Hey, I'm from the future. We're shooting to the moon and yada yada." They're gonna look at you like you are
They're gonna
nuts.
burn you at the
But here we
stake.
are. Yes. And so and it's so funny because and I know we're talking a lot of conspiracies and I'm just, jumping back and forth between spirituality stuff like that, but
That's good, man. It's part of it, dude.
yeah, it's so funny because like I told you about the lack of awareness is that we are there was something that was so funny that someone said I forgot where it says human beings don't change. Is that we have the same behaviors as our past ancestors. And what I mean is that look at cancel culture. It's just burning people at the stake. It
Mm-hmm.
really is.
Mm-hmm.
We are torturing people, not physically, but mentally and
Speaking of
spiritually through
that,
social media.
right. Speaking of that, a lot of people don't realize this, and people will see the post a lot, right? They'll see the comment, "Oh, the brown shirts, right? Like you're nothing more
Mhm,
than the brown shirts." I don't think people really understand what that means. Like in
mhm,
Italy, you had the black shirts, and in Nazi Germany, you had the brown shirts, and like literally, okay, think about this for a second. They would do like a speech or a talk or some kind of debate. There would be some intellectual discussion of ideas, whether you agreed with them or not, doesn't matter. And they would be usually held at universities because that's what universities have been for forever, right? The brown shirts and the black shirts would both go to these talks, and not even a lot of them, 10 of them would go into the back of the auditorium and they would shout and scream and point and cause fucking scene. And their whole goal was to shut it down. If they got it shut down, that was a
mhm.
success to them, right? Look at what they're doing now to people like Jordan Peterson, right? Like
Oh my
Ben
God, I love him.
Shapiro, right? And I'm not
Mhm,
like I watch Ben Shapiro sometimes, but he kind of gets on my nerves, so I'm not like sitting here saying like Ben Shapiro's God, but they do this to these people and it is the same thing. And that's where the brown shirts thing comes from. Like you're saying, it's like the burning of the books, burn you at the stake. The brown shirts come in, they cancel culture. You can't be on Facebook, you get zucked, all these things. And what's going to happen is the history and the knowledge is going to get wiped aside. And in 1-2 generations, there's going to be a real fucking problem. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And you know, the deal about that is that again, man, I can't stress the self-awareness thing is that both the right side and the left side, if you don't go to the extremes, right? They have good points. It's just that nobody wants to shut the fuck up and listen. Everyone
mm-hmm,
wants to talk.
mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to listen. Everyone is right. Nobody's wrong. So, and that's the thing because man, Jordan Peterson, I love him. And the fact that when he said this, and this is how you really get into the human psyche, man, and you're just like, damn, is that Hitler really thought he was the good guy. He
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
He really did. And
Most of
then
these guys
now,
do. They all do.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
they all think that they're the good guy.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, obviously morally we can I think this is this is where nowadays is getting scary is that fundamentally Hitler was wrong. And
Mhm.
you know it. Fundamentally. How? He was killing people that didn't agree with him. Same thing
Right.
with King James. That's why I hate the King James version of the Bible and all that jazz. It's just like when you have to kill people to listen to you, yeah, and everything, you are wrong. You're fundamentally wrong. Just let's
Speaking of
get it
that,
straight there.
considering the
Yeah,
date and all, you celebrate St. Patty's Day? Because if you do, you shouldn't. Same thing.
really.
Oh yeah, St. Patrick. That was the when they cleared the snakes out of Ireland, right?
Hmm.
What the snakes were the Druids. Essentially, what St. Patty's Day is the celebration of this fucking asshole who went in and wiped out all the pagans that lived in
Oof.
Ireland. Mass genocide. So
Damn.
drink
I didn't
up,
even know that. That's
drink up.
awesome. Fuck, dude.
Have
Well,
a
I don't drink
shot.
anymore, so
Right.
right.
Yeah. Well, remember that when you're celebrating your Patty's Day party, everybody, at least have a quick thought for all the fucking pagans and druids that were wiped out.
Fucking same thing with Columbus Day and Thanksgiving and all that shit, man.
Columbus
It's
Day too.
just
Yeah, Columbus is
nuts
an asshole too.
shit.
See, again, that's like what you're saying. People on the left, they're like, fuck Columbus, right? But the people on the right, they don't want to listen. But yes, Columbus was a fucking dick, right? He was also a
Yeah,
Freemason. He was also part of all these fucked up things, right?
yeah.
And there was people here long before Columbus. Man, they found Viking runes here. They've found Indian
Ooh,
shit,
yeah.
Chinese shit. They've literally found shit that goes way back before Columbus. Why do we celebrate Columbus Day? Because it's, it's politics, man. It's all politics.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, that's what, like I said, that's where the awareness comes from, what people need to understand. So the right, if you really look at it, like Jordan Peterson explains, which I thought was, like I said, is beautiful, man. It's just like the right is very logical. The right is fuck your feelings. This is logic. You know what I mean? Which we can't argue with logic. Logic is logic. Facts are facts. There's no alternative facts. There's no anything else. And that's why I love mathematics and the number sequences. They don't lie, dude. You're wrong. You know what I mean?
Here's what
That
it is. This is exactly what you're getting at, right? The right is analytic, the left is more of like the emotional side of
absolutely,
this thing. And
absolutely.
this is a prime example of this duality, right? This yin and yang,
Mm-hmm.
this ebb and flow, right? This is what happens. So the people, remember I said the billionaires watch the stars, right? So if you take
Mm-hmm.
that another step, the people beyond the billionaires, right? What are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
They're using the ancient hermetic principles and they're manipulating reality to their advantage using the principles that are universal, like duality. So they know that duality exists in everything. That's why they created a two-party system. And one party represents the left brain, analytical, and one or right brain analytical, and the other represents the left brain, creativity, right? And they will
Mm-hmm.
never see
Absolutely.
eye to eye. They will never come together because that's just not how it works. There's always a duality. There's an old
Now
saying:
here's the deal.
if you're not liberal by the time you're 25, you have no heart, and if you're not conservative by the time you're 30, you have no brain.
Yeah, but here's where things get interesting. I'm glad you said that, my friend. Here's where things get interesting. This is what they don't want you to know. Okay, everyone's going about it wrong. Everyone's like, "Oh, the outside world needs to unify us," but that's not the case. You have to unify yourself. Okay. And so what happens is when you unify yourself, that law of attraction and everything else, you know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. Again, the outside world is a reflection of the inside. So if we have unity within ourselves, that's what's going to create everything to come together. And the reason being I say that is because think about any story, okay? Any story. The Christ consciousness is always someone that's the one, unity, done. It's nothing else. The Buddha, Christ, you know what I mean? Fucking Neo from the Matrix, you know? But it's all one. And what makes them an anomaly and that's different is because they don't choose a side. They choose to be one whole unity and teach that, And so true love is not what we're saying like, oh my God, I love you and none of that jazz, right? There's a saying that true love is a mother's love, and I think even true love transcends that, man, because the oneness of everything, like I said, once it's one thing, there's nothing else. It's just done. Neutrality. That's why the Stoics are complete as one. They preach that forever, man, dude. How complete do you have to be for you to commit suicide because the government tells you to, and you're like, dude, I'm so complete, I'll do this right in front of everybody, I don't give a shit. Socrates did it, a whole bunch of other people have done it, you know what I mean? The Buddha, same thing. He preached that, and he was one. Jesus, man, come on, man. Out of all the stories, that is the most brutal and the most loving, you know what I mean,
Yeah, that's
out of
interesting.
anybody.
The Buddha thing too, because in Buddhism, the Zen is the middle of the road, right? It's not to take hard,
Samsara, yes.
right? Yeah. So it's interesting that Buddha would take that stance to the extreme with life and death. Like I won't even take a side on that. Like sure, I'll do it right
Mm-hmm.
now. You know what I mean? Like I'm up the middle of the road, and that's the
Yep.
most Zen thing you can do. Not to say that anybody should kill themselves, but yeah,
No.
that's wild. That's deep, you know.
So in Buddhism, what's really fucking fascinating, dude, and this is why I say that, that unity, you know what I mean, that middle ground is where we need that these conspiracies can't pull us. You know what I mean? Right now we're getting pulled like puppets on a string. But it's that how they describe it. So samsara is the wheel of life, as they say, right? But so samsara, what happens is an incomplete circle. So it kind of looks like this right here, right? So you have the circle, but then it has a gap. So everyone thinks that the escape, right, to the highest level is out of the gap. So they take the gap, not knowing that leads to another circle of samsara. And then what happens is if they go through the gap, then you're on another level of samsara. So it's a continuous, that's why the Buddha said life is suffering. It's a continuous thing of suffering, is because you keep doing that. But then, like you said, the escape was to not even partake in samsara. You see what I'm saying? And it's just like, I'm not going to choose a
Remove
side.
yourself from the system. I've been trying to say
Exactly.
this, man. Like people ask me, what are we going to do about it? Right? What are you going to do about the 5G and the chemtrails? And it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm doing a podcast. That's all I can really do in the physical realm. But,
Hmm.
you know, personally, I just remove myself from the system, man, as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? I just
Hmm.
don't participate. You know, same with the masks, right? I take it down to the most basic level as I can at this point. Go in the store. Oh, you need to wear a mask. Sorry, I'm just not
Cool.
going to do it. Not participating. Going to the
No,
next place. You know what I mean?
no.
So
So for me on that take is that I don't wear a mask. And then you got to wear a mask? Sure, I'll wear a mask. Because now I'm not, you see what I'm saying? I'm not even choosing a side. Now it's kind of like, okay.
yeah,
And then you do it. And then when you don't do it, okay.
it's the
You see what I'm
Zen.
saying? So
Yeah.
now there's no Twitter like, oh, I shouldn't wear a mask because of this. Now you're just there.
Yeah.
You're just total in the moment.
Luckily, I have not had any real confrontations with anybody about it. Nobody has stepped to me. Maybe it's just because I look sketchy. I don't know. But nobody has stepped to me. You know what I mean? Like, and I play
Yeah.
it through my head every time. I'm like, say something to me, Karen. Please, please, please. You know? But like, yeah, you're right. I should take a more Zen approach to that. You know what I mean? But luckily, I haven't had to, confront anybody. And honestly, you know me, I'm a nice guy. I might come off like an abrasive dude
Yeah.
or whatever, but like I'm a nice guy. And if somebody comes to me politely and like, hey, sir, just doing my job, but you got to wear a mask. Yeah, I'll put the fucking mask on, whatever. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, like, my girlfriend told me today that she walked into Total Wine and the guy was like abrasive with her about it. Like, you need to wear a mask. And she was just like, I'll just go outside and order for you to bring it out to the car. No problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny. Yeah, man. And that's the deal. I'm telling you, bro. Like, so in the meditation that I went to on the retreat and stuff like that, it's called Vipassana.
mm,
So Vipassana is apparently the original teachings of the Buddha, right? So that's what I was trying to tell you. Like transcendental meditation, I've been doing it, but I feel honestly, like I feel like I'm more reactive now, like my old self, like my ego self,
mm,
trying to do this transcendental meditation because it's yeah transcendental meditation, what they say, and obviously I'm new to it, so obviously I probably don't have the hang of it just yet, but they're saying that you can really go deep into your consciousness and whatever. But the teachings that I was a part of was just called Vipassana at the retreat. So the Buddha's teaching was there's three steps to it. So there's Anapana, which is focusing on breath, Vipassana, which is paying attention to sensations and feelings in your body and whatnot. And then the third one is called Metapana. Metapana is basically sending that energy out to the universe and to all beings and whatnot. So, man, when I do Anapana and Vipassana, because Anapana is supposed to be the anchor, that's why you start on the breath work first. So it anchors your mind to basically calm down. You know what I mean? And you're not there with any intentions to stop it or anything else. You're just there, right? So when you anchor the mind and it settles, and then you're just aware of every sensation in your body and stuff like that. What's really fucking cool, man, is that when I was on that retreat, I was on there for 12 days, right? So it's like 10 days of work. You're there on day 0, 1 through 10, and then leave. So it's like 12 days. Dude, by the time I left and I came back home, people were like bugged out. They're like, "Whoa, like you're so weird because I'm super extroverted, whatever." But dude, I was so like centered that I was just observing. That's what you can
mm,
do. That's what they tell you is just observe, and you're not a part of it. And I truly believe that, bro. I truly believe if people could even start there, like just observing themselves and just like legit, because when you don't have a reaction, when you don't have an emotional reaction, bro, there's power with that, man. So
mm,
let's say for instance the right and the left, imagine two centered people coming together and just having a conversation, bro. All of a sudden, oh, I see their side, I should be more compassionate, more empathetic. And then vice versa, oh, you know what, man, yeah, I'm like I told you today about me planning, oh yeah, I am aloof, I am spiritual, I am out there, but maybe I should get more in line, maybe I'll get more of my shit done and attract those things that I want. All of a sudden you have a balanced being. that's, I think, when you say and other people say, oh, they don't want us to unify. Again, I don't think that's the outside world. I think it's in us. They don't want us to know this power in human beings,
100%.
because then there goes everything. We can't control you. We can't do anything. Why? Because you are so centered, bro.
Right. Well,
That's
like you
it.
said, the emotional response, right? It's removing the emotional response, which is the exact key. That is the key element that these people use to control us, is the emotional
Absolutely.
response. They make you scared of corona. They make you scared of weapons of mass destruction. They make you scared of mass shootings, terrorism, whatever, communism. It's the emotional response. If you remove the emotional response, there is no, there's no fear, right? There's none of that. And I
Yep.
truly
Exactly.
believe, I believe that this web, right, this conspiracy web, is dark and as sketchy as some of the individual pieces might be. We're like, oh shit, that's scary. Like they're doing that. Like fuck, right? But I think that most of that might even just be to scare people like you and me who are actually doing the digging. Even that might be bullshit. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think if you removed all of the I don't know, the mechanisms for fear, right? That the entire world, we'd be living in fucking harmony, right? Just without the fear.
Yeah.
What, regardless if they're spraying shit or if the 5G is doing whatever it's doing. If we weren't scared of all these things, and that's one thing I too, like I should say, because in a lot of my conspiracy theory episodes, I've listened to them back and I kind of catch myself. I'm like, damn, I kind of sound like the fear guy, the fear monger guy, right? Like everything's kind of fucking negative and shitty at the end of the episode. You're like, fuck, that's kind of sketch, right? And I don't want to do that, right? Like I need to start trying to like end everything on like a more positive, like what can you do note than like, oh fuck,
Yeah. Yeah.
So got to work on that.
Yeah, that would be great, because it does start with us, man. And the deal is that this New World Order, like I've read that, I was reading that book on my computer and whatnot. Obviously I skimmed through it. I didn't really, read the whole thing. I was skimming through it, listening to this. And it's so funny because I'm a comic book geek, and there's a story of there's a crossover between like Superman and Batman's universe with the Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Manhattan comes over and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So basically, it was saying basically what this New World Order is, like the actual book, like the actual New World Order. They want unity, but they're doing it the wrong way. They're trying to control everyone because they think that man, because think about it, human history, we've always been at war with each other, always. And so they do like how you were saying in what is their project? Is it 22, 21?
Agenda 21, Agenda
Agenda 21?
2030. There's a few. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that they create something to unify us to fight against,
Oh,
right?
Project Bluebeam. Yeah.
Project Bluebeam, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was listening to that podcast and I was like, man, that is crazy. So, um, you know, in that book they were saying that, but not only that. So in this comic, which is really cool, in the comic they actually had that, remember the alien at the end of Watchmen came and it's supposed to
Mhm.
unify man or whatever, whatever. So what happens is in this comic it panned out, like the human race came together, but it only lasted for so long. And then so now shit gets even more out of hand because, now the veil is lifted, you know? So, you have these superheroes talking like, you really thought that was gonna work?
Right.
Like, are you for real right now? And that's what I think is gonna happen because like me and you were saying with the duality, and which again I love Alan Watts with the Taoism and stuff like that, there's no up without down. So if you do this, let's say for instance your plans do come into fruition, NWO happens, you're into full control, there's going to be a massive rebellion. If it's not in our generation, it's going to happen, dude, in human existence.
For
There's going to
sure.
be a massive rebellion, then there's going to be a massive fall, just like Rome, man. Rome was the empire of empires, and then guess what? They got fucked,
Or did
you
they?
know? Yeah, they got fucked, man.
Personally, I don't think they did. I think Rome is
You don't think
still.
so?
No, I think they just rebranded and do America, man.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I like that. All right.
I mean, think about it. We use all the same symbolism, the same fucking, pretty much everything is the same as Rome. We literally model our society off of what the Romans were doing, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at like the collapse of the Roman Empire, they knew that they were collapsing for a long time. So they started, doing a lot of power moves to grab land and take control of whatever they could in the last, couple hundred years of the Roman Empire. And I think that once the empire fell, right, the centralized control fell, that's when these factions that were spread amongst the empire started pushing their own individual agendas that we were talking about earlier, right? How there's different theys. They all still have like a same general theme that they follow, but they all have their own things going. You know, look at this shit on my green screen, right? Like all the but it all comes back to something, right?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. But regardless, it's going to be a continuous cycle until we stop the cycle, man. And again, by stopping the cycle is only by stopping it within yourself first.
It's happening. It's
And
happening,
the
dude.
thing was,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, there's a great awakening right now, man. Like, you know, consciousness is definitely, you know, getting up there. And, you know, I really do believe that. But like I said, if you continue with this cycle of things, man, it's just going to keep happening, you know. And the funny thing is that everyone wants to change the world, and I love the quote, is like, when I was young and dumb I wanted to change the world, but when I became old and wise I wanted to change myself. And then what happens is that once you change yourself, everything around you changes, man. Everything around you changes. And so, you know, that's, like I said, I'm sorry that I'm more on the spiritual side of things, because, you know, I know about some conspiracies, but I really do believe they play a huge correlation, man. Huge.
No,
Especially
good,
with the
man.
Vatican and everything else too, man, because
It's
I
a
grew
good
up Catholic,
balance,
so.
dude. You know, I like the spiritual stuff too a lot, man. I want to do an episode soon about more of this kind of stuff, and also like ancient, you know, spirituality and different things like that, because I'm deep into that stuff. Like all the episodes we've uploaded have just been kind of me laying the foundation for Jade, right, who isn't as deep, you know. So I'm just kind of like laying out, here's some conspiracies, here's some things that we can kind of prove, or like here's some sketchy dots that we can connect. But as time goes on, I do want to talk more about like the spiritual aspects of all these things, you know, the religions and the, you know, the lost civilizations and the things that they knew, you know.
Yeah, and the little bit that I know, that's why I'm grateful for you. The little bit I know, man, the whole thing when Alex Jones, when he got into that ceremony, man, with that pagan ceremony, the owl god, that was some scary shit
Bohemian
to me. I was like,
Grove.
God damn, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
Bohemian
man.
Grove. That's a big one, man. I feel like, you know, if there's like three things that I could point somebody to say, look into this, and like it'll change your whole perspective on like what's possible for these people. I think Bohemian Grove is one of them. 9/11, of course, right? And then, you know, I would honestly, I'm starting to say that this coronavirus might be the third big one. You know what I mean? Once maybe we need to get down the road another year and we look back on all the evidence that's going to keep coming out, and we're going to look back and be like, this is kind of like another 9/11, you know. So there's things, man, you know, just got to look for them.
Yeah,
Like you
look
were
at that
saying.
video I posted.
Yeah, you know, like you were saying earlier, man, if you take the 20 minutes, you know, instead of putting on Netflix and watching some dumbass show that you like, you know, click on some link that I posted that's not flagged as fake, by the way, right? Notice that, and go watch a 10-minute video about how whatever, and you'll have a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? For sure. But we're going to do this again, man, sometime. We need to sit down, got to get you in the studio, you know what I mean? Have like a full on legit, you know, episode. Do that whole thing, man, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
When are you gonna get me on yours, man?
Oh, dude, whatever. You know what I mean? I got to do. So, like I said, I'm doing that in the works, man. The podcast, like, I know it's been years since I've done it, but obviously I wanted it to be. It's a big part of my channel. You know what I mean? Like, I like interviewing people and seeing, you know, what their knowledge is, what their livelihood is, you know, and everything else, and how it contributes to everybody else. And it's just an amazing thing to see, man, like everyone's mentalities. And this is definitely a great subject to do it, especially for the people that, you know, hopefully we could say it in a way that could plant a seed, you know. You know, it's not about changing people's minds like right now, immediate, so that, but when you plant a seed, man, it's a very powerful thing. You know, once that seed is watered and grows, it's huge, man.
Sure.
So yeah, so once I get all my equipment, once I get everything the way I want to, you know, we can do it up, or we can do it like this. I don't give a shit. You know, it'd be revamped.
I mean, this is kind of a test, man. This is working out pretty good, man. So hopefully everybody likes it enough to
yeah,
you know, appreciate the next one that we do. Also, got to get you on some music, man. I'm working on some good stuff.
Yeah, I heard.
Get you in here soon, buddy. Gonna get you in here soon, bro. Buddy. Anyways, well, where they can find you at, man? What's all your stuff? Tell them where to go.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at the Danny Vegas, _Danny_Vega, and then my YouTube channel is the Danny Vega Show.
The Danny Vega Show.
Yeah, the Danny Vega Show. So just youtube.com/the Danny Vega Show goes right to my, you know, Right to my videos. Right now, I'm just doing a bunch of reviews and stuff like that. But we just talk about my four passions, which is personal development, health and fitness, film, and music. Man, that's it's my
Cool.
big four.
That's a good one, man. There's some duality for you guys, man. You can go watch a little conspiracy, get a little sketched out, and then you go over to Danny's channel, get a little positive motivation, get your life on track and shit. You know what I mean?
or at least get some laughs.
Right,
That's
get laughs,
that's all.
whatever. Either way, both are good. So that's cool, man. Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description for everybody, and we're gonna do this again, man. I appreciate you coming on here with me, dude.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me. I really do
man.
appreciate that.
Absolutely, dude. Love you. Until next time.
Love you.